Hey guys, I haven't been quite on the schedule I thought I'd be on, but I'm not on a bad schedule either. This is, I think, my second or third video recently, and as you know, I went away for maybe a year, a little more, to kind of get some things back together in my life, and I have done that. So that's the good news. The bad news is I'm sitting here at home, quarantined for God only knows how long. Um, Here I am. So I decided to make some more videos, and I will do that. I know a lot of people are stuck at home, probably bored. It seems like the one topic that gets more views, which tells me that it's popular and that I should probably do more of it, is the Criterion collection. I have a pretty good Criterion collection. It's four shelves like you see here. It starts here and goes to the bottom to the floor. I used to start at the top and go 5 shelves down. But I wanted to get some music ones that I could access more easily because I'm just into listening to music right now and watching videos and concerts and things. But the Criterion collection is never far from my thoughts. And I usually know what I want. Like I'm browsing the music one. I don't really know what I want. I'm going to see what hits me. But with the Criterion, I usually know I want to see this movie. And so I go and find it. And I do use an app. A lot of people have asked me about it. It's called DVD Profiler. I believe it's available both on the Apple and on Androids. But it looks something like this. And so the way I have it is anything I have in a box set is up here, and I can categorize it. If I want to, I can put it elsewhere. But I can put that under the Bruce Springsteen one. I could put under the under music if I wanted to. But it just scrolls through, and I do have a Criterion section on here, pretty early on. Again, it's all the stuff I own. So if I forget what I own, and that's happened, I can find it pretty easily. And again, it's called DVD Profiler. Here's my Criterion stuff right here. It starts alphabetical. So I got a lot of it, and here it all is. And it's easy enough. And then if you want to, you say you wanted this Hitchcock one, you can go to it. It'll show you the front, and then if you want, it'll show you the back as well. Let me see. Does it have the back on it? No, that one doesn't have the back. Some do and some don't. And it has some information about it, which I can update. You really can't see all of it, I don't think, but it's a little bright there. But anyway, that's what I use. This is going to be a top 10 video. Top 10 English language criterions. I'll do another one on foreign language with subtitles, because some people don't want the subtitles and some are fine. I'm fine with subtitles. I always have been, but I understand some people not being fine. So I get that. So let's start with just something that I really love and I would recommend. So if you don't have this movie, you're thinking about getting in the Criterions perhaps, but you're not sure you want to go into the subtitles yet, this video maybe is for you. These are 10 that I think that I would highly recommend for a number of reasons, which I'll get into. The first one is on Blu-ray. It's a movie from 1958. And it's the best version of this event, which took place in 1912, that I've ever seen. It's in black and white, and I think sometimes black and white is the perfect way to film certain things. And in this case, I think this is absolutely the way to film this particular movie. I love it. I've watched it, I would say, as much as anything in my Criterion collection. I like it that much. It tells a tale that should be told. It tells it in a, as far as I can tell, a very factual way, with some great acting, and explains to me in a lot of ways why what happened and why it shouldn't have happened. I'm talking about the sinking of the Titanic, and the movie is directed by Roy Ward Baker. It's called A Night to Remember. A Night to Remember. Love this movie. Look at that. That's an actual shot from the film as the Titanic sinks and as the few boats that were able to get off the ship leave, as the band played. Beautiful, beautiful transfer on this. on the Blu-ray. And I'll just read you the back. On April 14th, 1912, just before midnight, the unsinkable Titanic struck an iceberg. In less than 3 hours, it had plunged to the bottom of the sea, taking with it more than 1,500 of its 2,200 passengers. In this unforgettable rendering of Walter Lord's book of the same name, the acclaimed British director Roy Ward Baker depicts with sensitivity, awe, and a fine sense of tragedy the ship's last hours. Featuring remarkably restrained performances, and I remember the cinema's subtlest and best dramatization of the monumental 20th century catastrophe, and I would agree with everything it says there. There's some audio commentary. There is a making of the film, an archival interview with a Titanic survivor by the name of Eva Hart, a half-hour Swedish documentary featuring interviews with Titanic survivors, and The Iceberg That Sank the Titanic, a 50-minute BBC documentary, as well as a trailer, a nice booklet, and other things. I keep this one in plastic because I want to keep the case nice looking. I don't want any marks or scratches on it. It's just such a beautiful image here on the front. The only time I take it out is when I play it, and I've played it quite often. So, A Night to Remember, one of my favorite Criterions. It's right up there. Not my favorite, but it's right up there. Okay, next, one of my favorite movies that's on Criterion. I've watched this movie I don't know how many times. I've watched it on Criterion a few times. And I like the extras on this one as well. It's from 1979. It's a film by Hal Ashby, and it stars, to me, one of the greatest actors, Peter Sellers, who you know from a lot of different things probably, but this one, I don't know if you know him from this or not. It's just such a quirky, interesting movie, and it's called Being There. And this is an actual picture, or I should say a drawing, an artist's rendering of an actual shot from the movie, which, you know, this one's up to interpretation in a lot of ways. It's 1979, 130 minutes in color. It's a monaural soundtrack. It's 1.65 to 1, or 1.85 to 1. Night to Remember is 166, by the way, and in black and white. This is a 4K digital transfer. It's a beautiful movie. It's an odd movie. So this gardener, this childlike gardener that works for a rich man, the rich man dies, and so he is left without any home. He's a simpleton in a lot of ways. He can garden, he can prune, he can water, he can take care of shrubs and bushes and so on, and flowers. And he is lost. He doesn't know what to do. And at one point, another rich man and woman encounter him, and he explains where he used to live and so on and so forth. And they take him for a they take him onto some sort of a wise man. He is, his name is Chauncey Gardner. Actually, his real name is Chance, but they call him Chauncey for some reason. And he comes into the home of Melvin Douglas, who's a tycoon, and his wife, Shirley MacLaine. And in the movie, he comes out with things like, if you don't water a garden, it will die. It will shrivel up and die if you don't water it. And they take that to be some sort of a political gesture. And eventually, Melvin Douglas, who's friends with the President of the United States, wants the President to meet this guy because he thinks he's so wise. And so when the President comes to his home to meet with the Melvin Douglas character, he introduced him to Chauncey Gardner, who was actually Chance the Gardener. And he spouses out some things, some very simple things like that. And the President, I guess if you look hard enough and into somebody's words, you'll find something, and he finds something there. So it's a very tongue-in-cheek look at politics and a simple story of a simple man who's mistaken for something far more important. I don't know anybody else who could pull this off other than Peter Sellers in the role. But great movie, Being There. That's in my 10 movies I would recommend. Another one is directed by Terrence Malick, who does a lot of things I love. This is one of his earlier films, 1973, 94 minutes. It's in color, monaural, 1.85 to 1 aspect ratio. Stars Martin Sheen and Sissy Spacek. And that film is Badlands. And it's the story of, it's a true story, based upon the harrowing experiences of a man named Charles Starkweather, who went on a rampage, killing a bunch of people, along with a woman who played by Sissy Spacek. It's a killing spree of the late 50s. So it's a serial killer narrative. It's a springboard for a story of teenage romance between the two of them, between the two characters. It's really good. There's a documentary featuring the two actors, Martin Sheen and Sissy Spacek. There is some information on Charles Starkweather. It's a 1993 episode of the American television program American Justice about the real-life story in which the film was loosely based. So this is not a documentary, but it takes the characters of Charles Starkweather and the girl that he ran off with and provides you a fictional story of how their journey might have gone. I guess that's a fair look at that. Spine 651. Probably my eyes are not great today. All right, next. That's third. Fourth, a film by Sidney Lumet. And, you know, the directors, the Criterion Collection has on these things, you know, it's an amazing collection of directors, as you'll see on pretty much everything I've got here. Is just amazing directors. This is from 1957. It's 96 minutes. It's black and white, 1.66 to 1 aspect ratio. I watched this when I was in high school. They had a version of it probably on, I don't know, one of the VHS. I don't know what it was on anymore. Probably VHS, I guess. Amazing story. It's a courtroom drama, which I love courtroom dramas, but this really just takes place in the jury room. And so you might already know what it is. It's got a cast of characters. Henry Fonda being at the start, but there's just a list of, I don't think they list everybody who's in this movie because there's so many stars. Ed Begley, not Junior, Ed Begley. Lee J. Cobb, E.G. Marshall, Jack Warden, Martin Balsam, Jack Klugman. Yeah, just a ton, and of course Henry Fonda. And the movie is 12 Angry Men. Oh, look at what happens when one single juror opposes what everybody else wants to do. They want to end and get out quick. They think it's an open and shut murder case. He does not, for a number of reasons, and presents those and starts to question other people. And over the course of a long period of time, this epic story shows how one man can influence others. It's highly recommended. It's a great film. As is the next one. Just a classic by Elia Kazan, written by Bud Schulberg. It's called On the Waterfront. Stars Marlon Brando in one of his greatest performances. You'll know a number of lines from this, just from history, I guess. He plays Terry Malloy, and this is it says here on the back, and I would agree, it's a masterpiece of urban poetry. So he is. It talks about emotional. It's an emotional tale of individual failure and social corruption, deepening moral crisis, as he must decide whether to remain loyal to his mob connection union boss, Lee J. Cobb, or not. Really, really, really interesting movie. And I think you'll find that if you haven't seen this, you really should. It's 1954, 108 minutes, black and white, 1.66 to 1 aspect ratio. This one is, it's a 2-disc Blu-ray special edition. Disc 1 is a movie, and Disc 2 is an alternate presentation of the restoration in 2 additional aspect ratios, 1.85 and 1.33. And there's, of course, a ton of special features in this. I can't even read them all. There's just a ton. Highly recommended. Marlon Brando on the waterfront. If you don't own a Marlon Brando film and you want to get one, this is a good one to have. I think you'll find that there's a lot of acting in this is very well done. Marlon Brando, probably one of the better actors of our time. You could argue he's the best actor of our time, but he's certainly one of them. And this is a good film to see him in. Next. This is in my top 5 of Criterion movies, I think in any language. The first time I saw it, I was somewhat amazed by it, I guess you'd say. Really liked it, and still like it. Spy number 541. It's a 1955 movie. You see a lot of these movies are old, but 93 minutes, black and white, 1.66 to 1. So you've seen a lot of similar things here with the. There's another 2-disc situation. It's the only movie ever directed by someone who's an actor, who you know from a number of different movies, by the name of Charles Laughton. And if that doesn't help you with the movie, it's called The Night of the Hunter, starring Robert Mitchum and Shelley Winters. It's a beautiful, beautiful movie. Essentially, the man played by Robert Mitchum is a ne'er-do-well, as you might call him, just a bad man, who learns that there may be money somewhere, and he is going to find it, even if it means killing or whatever. He's just not a good guy. And he has one hand tattooed with the word love, I believe, and one with the word hate. He poses as a preacher, and I think he's got some religion in him because he's often singing songs that would be perhaps considered religious or spiritual or something. He's a bad man. It's a scary movie. It's a frightening movie. And the children, there's 2 children in this movie, are significantly terrorized by him because he wants the money and he's going to get it. We're going to try. So that's The Night of the Hunter. What does it say about The Night of the Hunter? Incredibly, the only film the great actor Charles Laughton ever directed, and it's truly a standalone masterpiece, and I would agree. It's a horror movie with qualities of a grim fairy tale. Yep, it's got some fairy tale aspects to it. Wow, I look like I just woke up. I did just wake up, but man, these allergies are killing me. It's a story of he's a traveling preacher. I'm not sure he's a real. Harry Powell, he of the tattooed knuckles, it says, whose nefarious motives for marrying a fragile widow, played by Shelley Winters, are uncovered by her terrified young children. Graced by images of eerie beauty and a sneaking sense of humor. The ethereal, expressionistic American classic. Also featuring the contributions of actress Lillian Gish, who's great in this. She's an old-time movie star. The cinema's most eccentric rendering of the battle between good and evil. Yeah, it really is a battle between good and evil. And I highly recommend The Night of the Hunter. If you haven't seen this movie, find it and either buy it on Criterion, which I would recommend, or find it somewhere. I don't know where you can find it these days, but find this movie and watch it. It's a brilliant movie. Highly recommended. And the extras on this thing, there's 2 discs, as I said. There's a whole thing on Charles Laughton directing The Night of the Hunter. It's 2.5 hour long treasure trove of outtakes, behind the scenes footage, and so on. It's just great. And then there's a new video conversation between film critic Leonard Maltin. Talking about Laughton directs. So really good stuff. I recommend. Okay, those were, so that's, I think this is fair. I did 6 what I would consider to be reasonably priced for Criterion. Always buy these from Barnes & Noble when they have their 50% off sale, or off of eBay. Sometimes you get a good deal. You get about 50% off, or maybe a little bit better. And most people who have Criterion movies are gonna treat them as I do, with kid gloves. They're gonna be in pristine condition. In fact, sometimes I like to buy from people. I've had a booklet sometimes that were bent when I bought the brand new. They just were packaged badly. But when I bought off eBay, I always ask, how's the booklet, how's everything look? And everything's always perfect. But I bought most of mine from Barnes & Noble because I'm 50% off. And I can return them there if the booklet's screwed up. I don't have a problem with that. I bought 6 of those. Now the rest are going to be kind of cheats. They're still purchases that you can make, but they're not single movies. So it is what it is. You're going to see it. It progressively gets to be more movies, I guess, as I go through this. But the first one is fairly recently released. Spine 857, 8 and 9. From 1995, 2004, and 2013. So every 9 years, they made the next part of this trilogy. It's a brilliant concept, it's Richard Linklater. He did Boyhood, where he filmed the same cast for a period of years. Every so often they get back together, and the boy grows up, over the 10 or 15 years that he shoots this. This is over 18 years from start to finish, starring Ethan Hawke, Julie Delpy. It's a love story. It's a story of 2 people who meet, fall in love, drift apart, and come back together again. It's the Before trilogy. So you've got 3. I'm going to keep the plastic on this one too. This is director approved, which is kind of cool. Richard Linklater. You've got Before Sunrise, then Before Sunset, and then Before Midnight. And each one of those are in like that. And then before this first one, Before Sunrise, has the booklet. And I'll show that because it's easy to do. So the booklet here shows Before Sunrise. And then you've got Richard Linklater's picture at some point during the filming. This has got information on all the trilogy. So you've got Before Sunrise, Before Sunset, and Before Midnight, all in here, and very similar characters. Obviously, the 2 main characters are Ethan Hawke and Julie Delpy stay the same. And what was interesting about this, when I read about this, was that they had a lot of input into the movie. I mean, these characters, 9 years after the first one, they get together again to film Before Sunset, and these people had input. Who are these people? They had input into the characters, and so they had input into how things went and what they would say and so on, which I thought was really interesting. So it really does take them through. You can imagine that 9 years later, you come back together again to film again and then again. And I don't know if that was set up from the very start. I think it was, because this was a concept that Richard Linklater had started with this, and then did again with. I'm not going to say did it better, because I'm not sure it was better with Boyhood. It was pretty darn good with this one. So if you like a love story of sorts, I would say it is a love story, then I think you'll enjoy this trilogy. I did. I highly recommend it. Again, these are all in English, so no problem there. No subtitles or anything. And it's hard for me to read this because of the plastic on it. It's like 1.66 or 1.85 to 1 aspect ratio, which is like a modern day cinema. 101 minutes on the first one, 80, and then 109 on Before Midnight. All in color, all starring the same 2 characters. So, highly recommend it as a box set. Next box set. This one is the only. Everything else is Blu-rays. This is only DVD, and I could have bought it on Blu-ray. I bought it on DVD. Love it on DVD, and I didn't see any reason to change from what I have, so I didn't bother to get the Blu-ray. In other cases, I've done that, but in this case, I'm really fine with the quality and fine with the production. I kind of like the big box on this, so I didn't bother to upgrade to the Blu-ray. This is, to me, this is one of the best stories in Hollywood. You have an actor who decides he wants to make films, but he doesn't want to bend to the big studios and do what they want. This is what Orson Welles maybe could have done. And it's amazing. You think about Orson Welles and the pictures that he's done, and how the studios. Orson Welles was a perfectionist, and I don't know. He spent more time in the editing room than probably anybody else. So he'd get a lot of film, he'd get a lot of stuff shot, and then he'd go into the editing room and spend months, probably, maybe longer, editing films. There's only one film that I'm aware of that he had complete control over, and that was Citizen Kane. And in my mind, Citizen Kane, one of the greatest movies ever made. We could argue with it, but it's certainly an amazing film from a standpoint of camera angles, actors moving, just cinematography. A lot of things that we take for granted now, he pretty much invented. Very creative mind, great actor, great screenplay, everything well done. Amazing movie. And imagine what he could have done if he had total control like he did on Citizen Kane. And that was a movie that they tried to stop him from making once they found out what it was about. But this one is an actor who wanted to make movies he wanted to make, and not be subject to Hollywood and their restrictions and their limits and so on and so forth. So he acted, made money, and then used that money to make his own films. And that is John Cassavetes. This is 5 films by John Cassavetes that he made. And great stuff here. Shh. Hey, quiet. Come over here. Come here. Hey, come over here. Come here. Come over here. Come here. Come here. You want to be on camera? Come over here. Come here. Come here. Come here, Coop. Come here, Coop. Hey, come on. Here, relax. Come on. Come over here. Get in the camera here. Here, get in the camera. Will you? Come over here. Get up here. No, you're not going to see Cooper. Oh, there he is. There's his head. He is a golden doodle, aren't you? You're a golden doodle. And, okay, yeah, thank you. Now, don't bark. You see somebody walking with a dog, and he decides that he needs to play with and guard the house from every single little tiny dog that goes by here. He may bark again. But you've got 5 films here. Shadows, Faces of a Woman Under the Influence, Killing of a Chinese Bookie, Opening Night, A Constant Forge, Shadows, Faces, A Woman Under the Influence, Killing of a Chinese Bookie, and Opening Night. That's 5. And then you also get A Constant Forge, which is kind of the story of how he did this, and of him and him, I guess, in general. But I love John Cassavetes. You may recognize him from other movies. He's been in quite a few movies as well, and he's in some of these too. I think my favorite is A Woman Under the Influence, but Killing of a Chinese Bookie is pretty good too. But let me talk about Woman Under the Influence. They're all good, by the way. It's not a bad film in here. But I really like A Woman Under the Influence. This is it's a story about the breakdown of a suburban housewife. And it's an amazing film, I think. Peter Falk of Columbo fame stars. He was a good friend of John Cassavetes as the husband. And then Gina Rowland, who was his wife, John Cassavetes' wife, stars in 2 of the most harrowing screen performances of the 1970s. As a married couple, deeply in love, they are unable to express their love in terms the other can't understand. The film is an uncompromising portrait of domestic turmoil. There is yelling, there is screaming, there is frustration. It's a marriage. It's a marriage. Yeah, and the family struggles to save her from herself. She's having an emotional breakdown, so she's, well, let's say she's almost crazy. Just a wonderful. They're packaged in these thinner cardboard sleeves, which I have no problem with. There is a thick booklet, with this. I'll show it to you real quick. It talks about the 5 films. It talks about each one of the films. There's quite a few black and white pictures in here. That talks about John Cassavetes and his. Here's a something that originally appeared in 1959, written by John Cassavetes, called "What's Wrong with Hollywood." So he talks about why Hollywood is not good, why it's not what he wants to do. Then In the Pursuit of Happiness, also by John Cassavetes, another article. John Cassavetes dead from cancer, by the way, smoked like a chimney. There's interviews with John Cassavetes in here. Just a lot of things here that are cool. Highly recommend this box set. Again, it's 5 films by John Cassavetes. You can get it on Blu-ray, you can get it on DVD. It's got good quality either way. So, what else can I tell you about it? A lot of extras. Yeah, a lot of good stuff. A lot of interviews with the various actors and actresses that played in many of these movies. Yeah. 2 versions of The Killing of a Chinese Bookie. The original 135-minute cut on home video for the first time, as well as the subsequent 108-minute re-edit. Faces, alternate opening, 17 minutes of footage not included in the final cut, and so on and so forth. There's a lot of things like that. There's just a ton of extras on the back here. I can't. Maybe you can, if I zoom in enough here, you can read it for yourself and see everything that's on here. But just a great set of movies. As is the next one, and the 9th one, and I've got one after. This is, again, they're all in English. This was, it's called America Lost and Found, the BBS story. The BBS story is Bob Rafelson, Bert Schneider, and Steve Blauner. They came together when they together produced, I believe they produced, a TV show and an invention of theirs called The Monkees, where they got these 4 guys together who I don't think played instruments, at least not very well, who could sing, but they formulated them because the Beatles were popular, so they wanted an American group similar to the Beatles, and they came up with the Monkees, who've come up with quite a few good hits over the years, and they made this TV show, and the money from that is what they used to fuel their film industry journey. They filmed BBS Productions, hence the BBS story, and made these films. And the first one probably is no surprise. It comes in 1968, and it's called Head. And Head stars the Monkees. Hey, it's the Monkees. It's a surreal 60s odyssey. It looks like whoever made this thing was tripping on acid the whole time. You're not going to recognize any songs in it, though they do songs in it, and they're decent songs, but it's not Last Train to Clarksville. There's the disc. Again, similar to the last thing I showed you with the cardboard cases. This one has a bunch of movies. 7 movies. And, again, a big, thick booklet talking about the Lost, and tons of pictures in it from the various movies. There are some really classics in here, by the way. You'll probably recognize Easy Rider as being a classic movie. 5 Easy Pieces is another one. Jack Nicholson. Dennis Hopper, an Easy Rider, along with Peter Fonda. And Jack Nicholson. So you've got some real classic scenes. 5 Easy Pieces. You may recognize this scene from the diner. I'm not going to spoil it, but it's one of the better lines, one of the better attitudes. The Last Picture Show, you may have heard of that. Classic Peter Bogdanovich directing. Sybil Shepherd in it, and Jeff Bridges. Real classic movie as well. So these are not just any old films. These are some really great movies. I think Ellen Burstyn was in that as well. The King of Marvin Gardens, another great movie. Yeah, these are just again Jack Nicholson in it again. Jack Nicholson was a real key player in the BBS saga, so he's in quite a few of the movies, and directed one of these too. Yeah, so again, lots of films here, well worth the investment, I think. Again, get it half price because you're going to find there's Jack Nicholson directing, I believe. Yeah. Yep. So America Lost and Found. All the stories are American, not just in English, but they're all about America. And like I said, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 movies. The last picture showed. So there's 7 movies here. Two are on one disc, and then the other ones have their own disc, and then a nice thick booklet that you can read about. On Blu-ray, there is also a DVD edition if you want that. I get the Blu-ray. Again, half price. Looks nice on the shelf. That brings me to the last one. And this has been a long video, maybe one of my longest videos. Let's see how this uploads. Again, cheating. This one's out of print, so the other ones are all still in print, I believe. Pretty sure. This one's not, sadly. And so it's worth just a crap load of money. I can't say why. It's 4 good movies, I'll tell you that. By a director that is, in my top 5 for sure. Maybe even my top 3 the more I think about it. Love his movies, loved his TV show as well. And just love him. I've seen some on YouTube. I've searched his name and interviews, and you'll see some really great ones out there that I thought were fascinating. These are 4 of the greatest films by the gentleman who's been called the master of suspense. He's done The Birds, or should I say, yeah. He's done a lot of movies. Mysteries, murders, some scary stuff, like The Birds. The Birds, I think, is a really scary movie. I'm talking, of course, about Alfred Hitchcock. Just a great box set, classic Hitchcock. The Man Who Knew Too Much, The Lady Vanishes, The 39 Steps, and Foreign Correspondent. 4 classic Hitchcock films. Tons of extras on this again. Audio commentaries on The Man Who Knew Too Much, The 39 Steps, and The Lady Vanishes. There's video essays, radio adaptations, documentaries, and new and archival interviews. There's a 1941 film starring Basil Radford and others who reenact their characters of Charters and Caldecott, who are the characters from The Lady Vanishes. And they're cool. There are 2 British proper gentlemen who comment on things throughout the movie. They're very interesting, I think. Plus a bunch of essays and so on and so forth. So great edition, classic Hitchcock. I'm actually looking to sell this one if anybody wants to purchase it. I love it, but it's worth so much that I just could use the money more than I can use this, if that makes sense. And I have, as you can see, stocked shelves, and I have Blu-rays and DVDs in bins right now because I have no place to store them. So I've got the ones I mainly, all my Criterions, and some other ones I think I would more likely watch. But there's plenty that I have in my app here that I might want to watch, and I don't even know where they're at. They're in a bin somewhere. What I really should do is recatalog everything and put horror in one bin, drama in another, documentary in something else, and then label the bins. So if I want to find them, I know where they are. Or maybe, if I really want to take the time, go into my app and note which bin they're in. Maybe just number the bins. So if I want them, I know where they are. But you know how long that will take. Yet, do I not have time? I do. Maybe I'll do it. Anyway, Alfred Hitchcock, the last one, the most expensive one, and one of the better ones of English-speaking movies. You can't go wrong with 4 Hitchcock movies. You really can't. There's an older version on DVD of Hitchcock that has, I think, some more films in it that goes for just incredible money, hundreds of dollars. This one, I think, is like $150 or something, which for 4 movies on the Criterion, I mean, they usually go for $40 each when they're regular price. You can get it for half that on a sale. So even at $20 each, you're looking at $80 here. If you could buy them individually, but of course together, they're not a print set like this. You can't get any other way other than pay, unfortunately, big money. But I'd be willing to look at selling this if anybody's interested. Just write me at deanofdvd@gmail, and I'll be happy to talk price with you. I'm really on anything, but if I get a good price for it. The out of print stuff I prefer to sell because again, it's just better money. I don't really want to sell something for $20 that I paid $20 for. I don't really want to sell for less either. These are great movies. So I tend to look to sell the out of print ones just because I can make money as opposed to just getting rid of something that I love and just getting what I paid for it. All right, that's it, guys. Long for me movie. 10 movies, all in English that I think, or 10 purchases you can make from Criterion. So the first 6 I think was pretty legit. The last 4 I might have cheated a little bit. If I had to, I could pick 4 more movies for you that I think would be well worth your time on the single edition side. If anyone wants that, let me know. I'll put up another 4 and the box sets are the box sets. All right, guys. Thanks a lot. Appreciate it. It's a Saturday afternoon here. It's a beautiful day, sunny. A lot of the neighbors are out moving around. I'm sitting here on my butt drinking water and talking to you guys. So I'm still happy to do that, though. All right. Take care and see you again. Bye now.